What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Everybody Eats. My name is Fumbah.
And I'm Eddie.
And today we'll be serving you a hot popping cake.
A whoop-ass!
No.
What?
No, that's not all we're doing.
What do you mean?
No.
We're not doing this week?
Did you read the script?
I mean, I made the script.
No, we.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Come on.
We made the script.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But so...
Respect my gangster.
What? You know,
I mean,
all the respect to your games.
All right.
You said that, man.
Always respect your gangster.
Sure, man. Like, if that's where you want to be, I'll help you follow your dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Love your support. All right.
Woo! All right, homie. What are we serving today?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, homie. Because today we'll be focusing on the comedy within film. Now, I'm a huge fan of comedy, and I'm not talking about, like, as a genre or those shitty office jokes you tell your bosses. You like that?
No, I was thinking of it. Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
You're that guy.
You had to be there.
What I mean is the art of stand-up comedy.
Right.
It's an art form that has come under heavy scrutiny over the last several years. And it's to the point now where we should almost expect to be punched in the face when talking about a hairstyle.
Ooh, alopecia.
Yeah.
We'll bring that up.
Yeah. You know what? You got it.
Right, starting off right with it.
I guess some people are a bit tender-headed.
See, these are the stories that everybody needs to know about. These are the life-threatening things that people ultimately need in order to survive on a daily basis. He said sarcastically.
Imagine if, like, Will Smith just, like, comes in the door. Fuck him. Like,
bro, we don't even have an audience yet. Will Smith just, like, knows these things.
He's just laser focused in. Like, hears the audio. It's like, yo, these motherfuckers. Shuts us down.
He's got stuff the NSA doesn't have, okay? He's Will Smith. He's going to hunt us down.
Yeah, he's got some people.
He's got the people.
He's got
the people. What I love about stand-up comedy is that the fact that you're able to put yourself into an empathetic state and see something from a different perspective that you might not have before. Right. So ultimately, what is empathy?
Right. So empathy to me is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. I'm not saying that it's a job for a comedian to get the audience to empathize with them.
Yeah.
In actuality, it should be the opposite.
Right.
It's the job of a comedian to use their jokes as a way to showcase their perspective. And it's on us as audience members to understand that perspective by using our ability to empathize.
So, question. Okay. Exactly what does this have to do within the scope of film?
I guess that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Right, so, hear me out.
Right.
A film is a form of media that often works to imitate life.
Right.
Comedy is tragedy, but with better timing.
Fascinating.
Right, so we as human beings often mask, or rather compensate for our misfortunes with humor. Right. It's like you'll read on Twitter, like, I'm depressed, LOL, you know?
That person was depressed, Fumbah.
Sorry, guys.
They're reaching out, and you just shamed them.
That was funny.
Oh, boy.
But no, we do it all the time. Like, when it comes to art imitating life and vice versa, nothing grabs the nuance of humor more than the comedy-drama genre. And I think a well-done dramedy works best when it's able to sustain a consistent level of well-timed jokes with an underlining dramatic backdrop that permeates through the film.
And there are... I'm so sorry. Satire has to be one of my favorite subgenres of comedy because it deals with very real and very painful problems of today's world. More often than not, satire does what comedy does best, which is to punch up to society, to hypocrisy, to the powerful. Excellent examples of satire would include Jojo Rabbit, which brings light to the indoctrination of hate within our youth. Sorry to Bother You, shining a light to the corporate greed of America. Or even I Care a Lot with the American healthcare system. But for this week, the film that I really want to talk about and focus on is the political satire directed and written by Adam McKay, Don't Look Up. So, the beginning of the film does an excellent job showing you the initial perspective of the film. And boy, oh boy, it's just science, right? We're shown this huge facility that is like a deep deep space telescope. It's gigantic and metallic, and science is everywhere, right?
It's the most science.
It's everywhere.
In the film.
Yeah, so we're kind of shown like this initial approach, right, within the scientific method, that taking in data and analyzing it for what it is, both good, right, in that initial excitement of discovering this gigantic asteroid, and then the catastrophe of realizing, oh shit, this thing's going to crash into planet Earth, right?
They raise the stakes in this film immediately.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
It's strong.
Yeah.
It's like the inciting incident in this film is just like, oh, okay, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But I love the fact that they actually spend some time to actually just like get with the excitement of it, because if you guys like when we're filming this, NBC just came with an article about how they just released or came out with another image of a black hole.
Yeah, you told me that. Actually.
That's huge.
That's actually crazy.
That's insane, right?
We've never gotten that, right?
We got one earlier, but this is another one.
Okay.
It takes 12 telescopes around the world just to be able to take a blurry picture of a black hole.
I mean,
that's insane.
Like, the concept of a black hole is just basically nothing ever. It's a void. So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't imagine what the fuck that would
I'm just kind of like, that makes sense.
I'm assuming that's a black hole.
You're telling me that it is, yeah. What it's shown is that this film is more than its institutions, and the further away that the data gets from its initial source of the scientific initial data, right, the more confusing and ultimately divisive the life-threatening, life-killing asteroid ultimately is. After the film reveals the asteroid is going to hit Earth, Adam McKay gives us this quote from Bob Monkhouse. He's for those who don't know, he's an English talk show host, right? Comedic talk show host, right? So Adam McKay fades in with the beginning of the quote saying, "I want to die peacefully in my sleep with like my grandfather," right? And then he fades in with the punchline, "Not screaming in terror like the rest of his passengers." So Fumbah, let me ask you, what do you think exactly this Adam McKay is saying by putting in this initial quote?
Yeah, I mean, well, just thinking about it, I think I wouldn't say I guess not quite the irony. I guess it's just the poetic nature of the film, because that's what we all kind of want, right? That's what everyone's looking for in this film, is especially the main characters, like they're trying to stop this asteroid from happening,
right?
So that everyone can sleep soundly at night and continue living life as they should. None of that happens. No one gets what they want, and then everyone inadvertently ends up screaming or dead, like the passengers on a plane. Yeah, this is about to crash, except for the protagonists, because they did everything they could do to stop the situation, foiled by the incompetence of the people who should stop the situation. Yeah. So I guess it is irony.
I feel like on two levels. One, it showed the fact that it's a quote from a comedian, is one that it's gonna be like meant in a comedic manner, right? It's gonna be light and levity, but also at the end of the day, we're dealing with something very dark undertones of society, right? And it's gonna be a lot to swallow, right? It's gonna feel like an asteroid's gonna hit the planet, right? So when this film came out, I absolutely loved the subject matter, where the world is ending, an asteroid is hurtling towards Earth, in a situation in which we need our leaders to act and protect the people of the planet, and we, even more importantly, I would say, need a media source that could give us up-to-date, accurate information, right? No biases.
So basically, we need people to do their jobs.
Funny, yeah. Obviously.
You would think.
This film doesn't do any of that. Instead, it shows us an unreliable administration, a distracted media, corrupt military leadership, tech companies with alternative motives, social media, and celebrity within the world at large. Suffice it to say, this film deals with a lot of subjects. It takes aim at a lot, right?
It goes pretty hard.
Right, and reviewing the responses over the vast subject matter, right, this was honestly the biggest criticism for this film, right, is that it deals with so much stuff, right, that it can ultimately feel distracting. And you'll be hard-pressed to argue the opposite. But in my opinion, McKay taking aim at all these parts within society is going to show light of the failings that these parts have brought to the world, right?
Because, not to cut you off. What I take from that is when people say that there are too many things happening or too many topics that he wants to discuss, it's all the same topic. Yeah. It's all connected.
Yeah. Corruption.
It's general corruption and a general lack of urgency. You can even look at the state of America right now. There are a myriad of things happening in-house that are going terribly.
And not getting fixed.
Like there's a baby formula shortage, which I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's like, how do we run out of baby formula when we're constantly having babies, you just passed a new bill saying you might not be able to get an abortion, and now we have no baby formulas. But instead of
it just seems like we're going backwards.
Instead of trying to put money into the institutions to make life better for the American citizens, we're sending money elsewhere. And granted, that's a big deal. We should be helping when we can.
Right.
But the thing is, we can't afford to do that now.
Can we help our regular citizens? This actually brings me to my next point, right? That a lot of these characters in the film, right, are easily based off of real people. Take the military general who brings snacks to Leonardo, Jennifer Lawrence's, and Rob Morgan's characters in the film, right? He ends up charging them for the snacks, right? We later find out that snacks in the White House were free. For the rest of the film, anytime you see the snack or the character, it turns out to be a running gag, and it genuinely adds some levity to the dark undertone of the film.
I actually forgot about that.
Right? But what if I told you this character could possibly be based on a real-life person who ultimately was in charge of feeding the troops during the Middle East War? This guy's name is Stephen Ornstein, right? And his company is called Supreme Food Service. So since 2005, he was responsible for getting the supplies to troops they needed in order to survive. Okay. And over the course of 6 years, the Defense Department paid him a whopping $5.5 billion. And due to the emergency services, right, Ornstein realized that he could charge up the wazoo, charge absurd amount of money for a regular everyday meal. Now, Fumbah, please, guess how much he charged?
I'm assuming an absurd amount. I don't know, like $500?
$20,000.
Get the fuck out of here! Yo, he's charging $20,000.
$20,000 for a
Chef Boyardee.
That's some good Chef Boyardee.
Oh my god!
That's the best ingredients. That's the best ingredient.
So
$20,000. So this character in the film is honestly, it's a simple little moment where it's like snacks, but it all ultimately ties into the corruption within our actual country. And in case if you're wondering, Ornstein was ultimately brought before Congress, right? And where Congress was found to have paid an over of $100 million in simply shipping costs, right? This doesn't include any other forms of theft that the company or the man brought to the American people. But he ultimately agreed to pay $434 million in criminal penalties. Now, Fumbah, to a billionaire, does this seem like a lot of money?
I mean, seeing as how I'm not a millionaire, I would imagine
billionaire. He's a billionaire.
Oh no, this is not a lot of money.
I mean, for me, I might as well put me in a cell. I'm not gonna ever be able to pay that.
I'm in jail forever.
I would love to have $434 million. Right. That sounds nice.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but honestly, no, it doesn't. This is just a slap on the wrist, right? But for me, ultimately, what I think that McKay ultimately takes the most focus on is our media. Sure, you could argue that the politicians are the main focus, but I would argue that the people who are meant to keep the politicians in check within our society is our media, is our press institutions, right? That beyond the politics, the facts and data of a life-threatening event should take top priority and be brought to the general public. But instead, the media gets distracted by celebrity and stories that aren't really life-threatening, right? Again, this has real-world implications. Take Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, or the Will Smith slapgate, right? Stories like these get a lot of attention in comparison to the Ukrainian war, for that matter, right? One talks of a person literally taking the shit on a person's mattress, and the other one talks about the possibility of thermonuclear war. Which one do you think we should focus on?
You know what's kind of interesting is we were just talking about. I just learned about the shortage of baby formula.
Yeah.
Right, and that's terrible.
Yeah.
But then, like, before that, I also just found out that Ray J, was forced into what they made. Apparently, that sex tape that he made with Kim Kardashian was like planned, and it was a staged thing.
Really?
Yeah, but like, who gives a fuck? We're running out of baby formula. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
so I'm like, oh really? Like, I immediately get distracted into it, right? So while these things could be like distracting or even entertaining, right? Yeah. In comparison to other world consequences, like not having baby formula, right? They don't really have any merit, right?
I'm sorry, it was just the fact that you were like, oh wait, actually.
Yeah, I was like, oh really? You're like, I got completely sucked into it. I was ready for it. You know,
Yeah.
I fall into it. It's so easy, ladies and gentlemen, but we got to stay vigilant. We got to stay on top. Myself, I got to do it.
We're all susceptible.
We're all susceptible to it. Absolutely, right? But honestly, this is not a happy film, right? This shows how the government institutions have failed. And honestly, one of the most beautiful motifs that this film does is it has these rapid cuts showing families, animals, locations, and societies all over the world. It speaks to the immovable fact that if you take away the institutions and the governments or even the borders, right? We're all just earthlings on this planet, right? Trying to live lives to the fullest, right? So as screenwriters, as filmmakers, what do you guys think the role of the artist is meant to be in this situation? Do you believe that Adam McKay has brought light to our failing institutions? Or do you think this film is overly distracted with the messaging and it fails to deliver on a conclusive story? Honestly, what are your guys' thoughts?
We'd love to hear it.
There's not a single other category of comedy that comes anywhere close to as dark and as grim as satire, except black comedy.
What do you mean by that?
Which goes to Fumbah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say it's black comedy, but it's damn near close. But today I'll be talking about Judd Apatow's 2008 film Funny People. So the film focuses on our protagonist George Simmons, played by Adam Sandler, and Ira Wright, played by Seth Rogen. George is a retired stand-up comedian with no close ties to friends or family, but has found an immense financial success by making shit movies for kids.
Children.
He's also incredibly depressed.
Awkward.
Things take a drastic turn for the worse when he is diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia and is offered an experimental drug that only has an 8% success rate.
Super light material you got here.
Now, Ira is a struggling stand-up comedian who is jealous of his friends/roommate's success and dreams of making it big in comedy. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I mean, certainly the lightest of material.
It's pretty
work. Oh yeah. I really think anytime you bring in like leukemia,
it's always a good time.
Oh my goodness,
it's super funny.
Yeah. I think right there you kind of sets up your like dark undertone of the film.
Yeah, no,
it's certainly bleak.
Here's the thing about this film that I find fascinating. As a film focusing on stand-up comedians, I have hardly laughed at this film. Like this is the most unfunny comedy I've seen in a very fucking long time. Like, George is presented as a shell of his former self, and then is punished further by getting leukemia. You know what I mean? Like, the comedy does come in, though, when we are introduced with Ira's character and just how naive and stupid he is, right? Plus, side note, I have, like, a weird love-hate relationship with the improvisational dialogue that Judd introduces.
It's very loose.
It's super loose.
Yeah.
It's just...
It works.
It does.
Sometimes.
It's great for believable dialogue just because it does feel like two friends just riffing, because that's exactly what it is. But then you realize like there's no script at this point, and then they just keep doing it. Yeah. And it just gets really stupid.
Yeah, the gag becomes more important than the plot or the film itself.
It's like a 5-minute gag.
Like, why is this?
I don't know what this has to do with anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that's the film in a nutshell. There's two comedians from opposite ends of the spectrum. One searching for success in his career. The other was beaten down by his career. And the two learning to empathize with each other. Again, I believe a comedian opens the floor for empathy. But only when we understand their perspective. Now, there's a scene in this film where George goes to an open mic and just bombs. And, us as voyeurs, if you saw episode 1.
Episode 1, are you watching?
Like, comment, and subscribe, check it out. Sign up for our Patreon.
Anyways.
This is great. It's great stuff there. His perspective is shut off from the audience, leaving them confused. They do, however, see the perspective of Ira, who shits on George for his entire set, gaining the audience's attention and empathy.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you bomb,
you're
going to be, especially for comedians, they're going to make fun of you.
No, it's part of the job. Like,
it's part of the culture.
You can't bomb. You can bomb. It's expected that you do, but you also should expect for someone to tell you that you suck.
Yeah. It's also kind of like low-hanging fruit, especially if a guy just really...
Yeah, it's kind of frowned upon.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Well,
I feel like they still do it.
Oh yeah, because how else will you learn? Just like,
you're gonna learn today.
Don't suck today. You know? But it's interesting to me because not only do the audience members see his perspective, but so does George. And again, like you said, as a veteran comedian, he understands the assignment.
Right.
Like, I fucking bombed. That sucks. You riffed on me. But also, you were actually funny, and I get why you did it. So I'm going to give you a job. And that's how they meet. Now, do you understand what I'm trying to get at with this? Like, basically, I'm saying that comedy is a dance between perspective and empathy.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like that's the most important thing. Like, comedy is going to be dealing with some dark-ass material sometimes. You're going to be talking about stuff that's taboo and controversial within society, right?
Yeah,
but
100%.
if it's done properly and tastefully, then you might see a perspective that you hadn't seen before. And that can open your eyes to something new.
Yeah. It'll
and bring about empathy.
So, Ira, if you haven't picked up on it yet, is a selfish prick who will do whatever he needs to do in order to get ahead in life. And George is a lonely, selfish prick who pushed everyone away and only cares about himself to a certain extent. Right. Now, both characters are desperately looking for the same thing, and that's to be understood.
Right.
Comedy, to me, is best utilized by those who often felt misunderstood, and therefore it's a vehicle used to drive a person's point of view home to the audience. The more these two miserable people get to know each other and gain perspective, the more they can empathize and inadvertently tell better jokes.
Right.
And I find this to be very poignant for society today. Most people nowadays listen, but you only listen to build an argument rather than listening for enlightenment and understanding.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly. Like we can't compromise on anything because our patience for empathy has been severely diminished. I mean, I believe so. Don't you?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, but aside from Amber Heard shitting on Johnny Depp's bed, there's some pretty dark shit that's going on in the world today.
I keep thinking about Amber Heard shitting on that man's bed.
I mean, I like he was like, I know my dog's feces. That was not my dog's feces.
That was not my dog's feces. To be empathetic for the terrible things that are happening, that's just being a human. Like, we're supposed to
absolutely
sympathize and empathize with the terrible things that are happening, and for the people who are going through misfortune, it's just unfortunate that it's happening so frequently.
I feel like comedy does a really good job of, like, by making a joke about it. Like, with any, like, myriad of dark subject materials, they have the ability to make a joke about it, bring light to it, and allow society to potentially move on from this really tragic events that potentially have transpired or have transpired, right? Yeah. Look at any number of comedians, right? Some of the best ones are the ones that are able to harness the tragedy of the day and able to allow a society to move on, to laugh, to move on, to like continue to live their life, And that's one of the beautiful things about comedy.
Yeah. Personally, I think empathy doesn't equate to forgiveness, but it does give context. Right. And I feel like it has to, if forgiveness is even an option, it has to start with empathy.
Yeah.
You have to know what's going on, or at least try to. And I fear that we're turning into a society that only empathizes when it's convenient. But that's literally when it's the least potent.
Yeah, when it's just confirming your bias, so you already have.
I mean? It's like, oh yeah, he's on my beliefs, so I empathize with you. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what would you say would be right now would be like an example of like empathizing with something that is inconvenient, like.
I know there's a lot going on, but let's just for right now talk about politics, right?
Sure.
I think it's mad inconvenient to empathize with anyone in the far right because like they hate me,
right?
You know what I mean? Just like as a being,
yeah,
it's very inconvenient for me,
right?
But also, I do understand what it feels like to be part of the disenfranchised.
Yeah.
I do understand what it feels like to not be heard or appreciated within society.
Yeah. That's one of the things I loved about like going back to it, like there are films that are going to give you perspectives on things like the indoctrination of our hate within the youth, right?
Yeah.
That hate is not something that you're born with. It's something that you're taught. right, by people, right? That children, they're not hateful creatures or hateful beings, right? Yeah. It's adults that indoctrinate them with those those prejudices.
Yeah, no, it's a learned thing. Yeah. It's a learned behavior in terms of hate. Yeah. Kids have the capacity to be motherfuckers.
Little shit.
Little shits.
Yeah, they're like little miniature alcoholics, right? They just will say anything that they want.
I mean, they're literally...
Yeah,
let's bring it back to the movie. So, George is a man that everybody loves, but no one understands, right? Only one person knows of his illness, Ira, and he feels and fears that when he goes away, eventually passes, no one's going to feel remorseful, right? No one's going to miss him. And it's only until Ira cries, which is actually one of the only funny moments in it, because just seeing one grown-ass man cry. That's what finally got him to admit to people about his condition, and he gets what he wants. You know, he starts to reconnect with his family. He starts to reconnect with his friends, or like to find out he has friends, like real friends. Yeah. He finally reconnects and buries the hatchet with his former flame that he always wanted to reconnect with. He gets what he wants, and then he doesn't die.
Plot twist.
Turns out he's actually of the 8% that survives the experimental drug.
I mean, hey, I am mad about it.
And he's pissed. He's mad as fuck. He doesn't like it. Because again, this is a man who thought no one's going to be there for him. Yeah. And it turns out everyone's there for him. Yeah. And it turns out he's not dying. So it's like, are they still going to be there for me? It's actually a really sad mentality, but it's something that I feel like most people relate to, where it's like, yeah, you were here for this thing, but once this thing is over, do you actually give a shit? How do you live your life without a reason for someone to empathize with you? Right? Like, you don't have this thing, this disease, this reason for someone to feel for you and understand you.
Yeah. I feel like if you say, like, hey, I'm dying, there's a lot of sympathy that comes with that, you know? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people want to empathize, and they want to be like, I'll be there for you. You're dying. I'm gonna be there for you at the end, right?
And then you just don't die.
And then you don't die. But I think that comes back to George. You got to put that on George. You know that it's it is. He's gonna live, and so now you have the option to live, right? You know that there are people out there that love you and care about you. So what are you gonna do with that? Are you gonna just stay the same lonely asshole that you were before, or are you gonna change to something new?
At the end of the day, though, we all live on this planet. Yeah. You know, everyone at a certain point wants to be understood. Kumbaya, my lord. Which is, like, to be understood is not the same as being accepted, you know? But we still need to try to be more open-minded and empathetic with those who deserve it in order for people to empathize with us. Yeah. You know, it's a give and take scenario.
Absolutely.
So I didn't write this out, but I saw the Kendrick Lamar music video. If you're familiar, Kendrick Lamar just released a single. I don't know if it's for his album yet, but it's a new single called "The Heart Part 5," and the entire thing is so poignant. I had to put it in. I'm still trying to decipher what if there is like a main thing. It seems like it's talking about a lot, but essentially he's talking about the culture of hip hop, the culture of the game, of gangster life, and just the culture of Black people and how problematic it can be, right? That it fosters these institutionalized ideas that are a detriment to us. But we're willing to give it all, like our entire being for it. Right. Because that's all we know. And throughout that, he's talking through the lens of all these different problematic and somewhat and then some prolific Black people. Like he talks through O.J. Simpson, talks through Jussie Smollett, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Jussie Smollett. I guess that's how I say it. Yeah, and recently Will Smith, and it hit me specifically just because I've never seen. We've talked about this several times as Black people, but I've never seen it framed in such a way where it's such a scathing critique of our culture.
Of Black culture specifically?
Yeah. The reason why I'm bringing it up is that he he basically stated at a point where he acts as Nipsey Hussle, and he's talking from the perspective of the man who took his life. Right? He's talking to him and saying, I see why you did it or what happened. I forgive you, but know your soul is in question, right? Ooh. And there's something really powerful about that, and I feel like that's basically what I'm trying to get at, right? Where there are people that we're going to hate in this world, and there are people we're just not going to get along with. But empathy doesn't mean that we have to like you. I don't need to like you to empathize with you. I just need to see where you're coming from.
Looking at the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
I think one of the most poignant examples of this that I can think of right now is, the hate of Russophobia within this country right now. Like, if you're Russian in the United States right now, you're not doing
no one likes
well.
You.
Nobody
no one likes you.
I think it calmed down a little bit ever since Will Smith kind of slapped everyone's attention away from the Ukrainian war.
I guess that's also again a good distraction of maybe we don't hate you as much.
Yeah, but even for the Russian people themselves, we're, especially as Americans, we're always told these are your enemies. We must seek out and destroy them. Please don't cut that one little bit. No, but I feel like we're honestly given this perspective of hey, these people, they're our enemies. We must hate them. We must destroy them at all means cost. But at the end of the day, they're just human beings on a planet flying thousands of miles per hour through space and time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all just earthlings on an Earth, on a planet, right? And somehow we're all alive, right? It does we need to find a way in order to be empathetic to even the people who are allegedly supposed to be our enemies. For in this particular example, the Russians. Not to say that there haven't been atrocities that the Russian government has done upon the Ukrainian people, because they have.
They have.
But is that every Russian citizen within that country? No.
I think that's just the thing about empathy, where it's you open the door for perspective and you might get a welcome change.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think it's a good point to possibly end the podcast.
So what do you guys think? As far as artists, as stand-up comedians, right? What do you think the job of comedy is? Do you feel like it is something that is meant to bring perspective to something new to the general public, or do you think it's meant to be just for laughs and giggles?
Yeah. Also, do you find it generally harder to empathize with people nowadays? Do you think that it's more required for us to empathize? Do you think it's necessary at all?
Yeah. We really want to find out what you guys had to think, and so leave a comment down below. And honestly, stay hungry, stay active.
Cheers.
Have a good day.